What if the reason your home doesn't look beautiful has almost nothing to do with the furniture you own? That's because truly beautiful homes tend to get one thing right before anything else: the foundation. And once you understand what that means, you may start looking at your own home very differently. Think about the last time you wanted to improve a room. Each item looked good on its own, but somehow the room still didn't feel right. That's the frustrating part of decorating. You can keep adding beautiful things without ever creating a beautiful space. The secret is that a home isn't made beautiful by the number of attractive objects inside it. It's made beautiful by how those objects work together. And that begins with decisions that most people make before they even realize they're making them. The first is the identity of the home. Ask yourself, what should this home actually feel like? Calm? Creative? There doesn't have to be one perfect answer. The important thing is that your choices should feel like they're coming from the same story. Imagine walking into a room where one piece of furniture feels modern, another feels rustic. The artwork belongs to a completely different style, and every surface is filled with unrelated decorations. Nothing may be technically wrong, but together it feels confused. Now imagine another room with fewer objects, but the furniture, colors, materials, lighting, and artwork all seem to belong together. That room often feels more expensive even when it isn't. That's the power of coherence. And here's where things get interesting. Beautiful homes don't necessarily have more design. They often have better decisions. Think about clothing. A person can own an enormous wardrobe and still struggle to put together an outfit. Another person might own far fewer clothes but know exactly what works together. The difference isn't necessarily money, it's clarity. Your home works the same way. Before you ask, what should I buy? Ask, what does this room need to do? That single question can completely change the way you decorate. A living room designed primarily for watching television will naturally look different from one designed for conversation. A dining room needs to make gathering around a table easy. A bedroom should encourage rest rather than becoming a storage area. And an entryway needs to make coming home feel simple rather than creating an obstacle course of shoes, bags, and random objects. When the purpose of a room is clear, decorating becomes much easier. You stop buying things simply because they look good. Instead, you choose things because they serve the room. That distinction saves money, and it also makes the room feel more intentional. Now let's talk about one of the biggest mistakes people make. They try to decorate around a bad layout. Imagine a living room where every chair is pushed against the walls, the sofa faces the television, the coffee table is awkwardly far away, and nobody can comfortably talk to anyone else. The problem isn't decoration, it's structure, and this is the part that many homeowners overlook because shopping feels like progress. Buying something gives you an immediate sense that you're improving the room. Moving a sofa 3 feet doesn't feel nearly as exciting, but sometimes moving that sofa can accomplish more than buying 10 new accessories. That's because layout affects everything. It determines how people move through the room, where conversations happen. So before buying anything, try something surprisingly simple. Remove the small decorations. And don't worry if it looks slightly unfinished at first. You're not trying to make it beautiful yet. You're trying to understand it. Because once the room is clear, problems become easier to see. Maybe the room simply contains too many pieces competing for attention. And here's the mid-video question that can save you a surprising amount of money. What if your next purchase isn't the solution at all? What if your home would look better if you bought nothing? That doesn't mean you should never decorate. It means you should stop using purchases as a substitute for decisions. A beautiful home usually has a visual hierarchy. There's something your eyes notice first, then something else, then another detail. Your attention moves naturally around the room instead of getting stuck in one crowded place. That flow is what makes a space feel calm, balanced, and finished. And to create it, you need more than objects. You need spacing and a sense of order. Those things don't always come from a store. They come from thinking carefully about what belongs, what does not, and what the room is trying to say. Sometimes the best thing you can do is simplify. Sometimes the best improvement is removing one item instead of adding 5. Sometimes the most beautiful room is the one that finally gives your eyes and your mind room to breathe. If this idea changed the way you think about your home, take a moment to reflect on one room that feels off and ask yourself whether the problem is really the furniture or the foundation underneath it. But when everything is trying to be important, nothing feels important. That's why clutter can make even expensive interiors feel cheap. It's not necessarily because the objects are unattractive. It's because there's too much competition between them. Imagine walking into a room where every wall has artwork, every shelf is filled with decorations, every table has multiple objects, and every corner contains something designed to catch your attention. Your eyes don't know where to land. Your brain keeps jumping from one object to another. And instead of feeling surrounded by beautiful things, you may simply feel overwhelmed. A room needs breathing space. Empty space isn't wasted space. It's part of the design. A blank section of wall can make artwork feel more significant. An uncluttered table can make a beautiful lamp stand out. Space around furniture can make the furniture itself feel more substantial. Even a small gap between objects can create a sense of calm because your eyes aren't forced to process everything at once. Sometimes the most sophisticated thing you can add to a room is simply less. But there's another side to this. Minimalism doesn't mean removing everything until your home feels cold. The difference is that they feel chosen rather than accumulated. There's a story behind them. There's a reason they're there. Your home should look like someone lives there, but it should also look like someone made decisions there. That's an important distinction. The sweet spot is somewhere in between. Enough personality to make the space feel alive. Enough restraint to allow that personality to breathe. And this brings us to another principle: consistency. You don't need every room to look identical. In fact, that can make a home feel artificial. A bedroom doesn't need to look like the living room. Each space can have its own personality, but there should be a relationship between the spaces. Maybe the same wood tone appears throughout the home. These small connections make separate rooms feel like parts of one home, rather than unrelated spaces connected by hallways. Your eye may not consciously notice every connection, but your brain does. It recognizes repetition, and those relationships create a sense of visual harmony. Why? Because beautiful interiors aren't just collections of products, they're responses to a particular architecture. You can't simply remove those conditions and expect the same result somewhere else. Your home has its own conditions. Good design works with those conditions instead of fighting them. So before asking what looks beautiful somewhere else, ask what makes sense here. Then build from there. Sometimes the architecture is already giving you the answer. A beautiful window might deserve to become the focal point. A narrow room might benefit more from better spacing than from additional furniture. And if you want a simple rule to remember all of this, use this. Make the big decisions before the small decisions. Choose what deserves attention before filling every empty space. Because when the big decisions are right, the small decisions become much easier. You'll stop wondering whether you need another cushion to make the room feel complete, and you'll become much more comfortable leaving something out. That's something beautiful homes rarely get wrong. They don't try to make every corner impressive. Design isn't just about what you see, it's about what your eyes are being invited to notice. When you walk through the front door, you should feel something. Maybe it's calm, maybe it's comfort, maybe it's energy. Maybe it's the feeling that you can finally relax. Your home isn't a showroom, it's the backdrop of your everyday life. That's why the best designed home isn't necessarily the one that impresses everyone else. It's the one that works beautifully for the people who live in it. A bedroom can look like a luxury hotel, but provide nowhere to put the things you actually use every night. Good design has to survive real life. It has to work on Monday morning, not just when guests arrive on Saturday evening. So the next time you look around your home and think, I need to buy something, pause for a moment. Ask yourself a different question. What decision is this room asking me to make? Or maybe, after all that, you really do need that new piece of furniture, but now you'll know why you're buying it. You're no longer shopping randomly, you're solving a problem. And that's the difference between decorating a home and designing one. Decorating can be as simple as adding attractive objects. Designing requires you to think about how those objects, spaces, and decisions work together. Because the most beautiful homes aren't necessarily filled with the most beautiful things. They're built on beautiful decisions, and once those decisions are right, the home doesn't have to shout for attention. And sometimes, that quiet feeling is the most beautiful thing a home can give you. So look around your own space tonight. Don't immediately think about what you could buy. Think about what you could change, what doesn't belong anymore, and what already works that you've simply stopped noticing. You may discover that your home doesn't need a complete transformation. It may just need a few better decisions. If this changed the way you look at your own space, take a moment to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more practical design ideas. And tell me in the comments, what is the one room in your home that you think needs better decisions, not more stuff?